funds of 6.8 million rand was spent by the end of December. Why? None of the allocated funds of almost 900,000 rand allocated to San du Plessis Road and Estuar was spent by the end of December. Why? Why did the Department of Public Safety spend just over 55,000 rand of the allocated budget of 21 million rand, being only 0.26% by the end of December? Executive Mayor, through you, Honourable Speaker, is the reason for the underspending of our capital budget because of poor management, or is there just no funds? Then we get to operational expenditure. How can it be that the operational expenditure on the water already stands at over 812 million rands, while the budget makes provision for this expenditure of 768 million rands for the whole financial year? This means that we already overspent on this expenditure by over 44 million rand by the end of December. How will the Metro explain this unauthorized expenditure to the Auditor General by the end of this financial year? Should it also not be of a great concern that waste management already spent 61.85% and technical service 61.77%, sanitation 65.74%, and Centlec 62.15% of the operational budget by December 2024. And then on the mid-term budget performance assessment report for 2024-25 financial year, the revenue variances. It is not clear that the projected revenue on electricity, wastewater management and solid waste management was inflated in the budget, seeing that there is an unfavorable revenue variance of over 270 million rand in electricity charges, 19 million rand in wastewater and 3.8 million rand on solid waste. Overtime. Why was unauthorized overtime, spending on overtime of over 62 million rand yet again allowed, resulting in overtime payments of a total amount of 106 million rand in the first 2 quarters of the financial year? Why was the overspending on overtime allowed in the Office of the Executive Mayor of over 1.5 million rand? Corporate services in the amount of over 3.2 million rand, community service in the amount of over 17 million rand, technical service in over 10 million rand, and public safety in the amount of over 17 million rand. Honourable Mayor, through you, Honourable Speaker, can the Freedom Front Plus assume that the ANC-led government has no political will to reduce this overspending on overtime? Will you agree, Honourable Mayor, that the Executive, City Manager and the heads of departments have now officially lost control over the workforce of the Metro? Will recommendation 4.1.1 of the Audit and Performance Committee be implemented with regards to overtime, and if so, when? Capital expenditure. Why did we yet again only spend just over 305 million rand of our budgeted capital expenditure in the first 2 quarters, being only 22.82% of the approved budget of 1.3 billion rand for the financial year? How will service delivery in the Metro ever be resolved if community services only spend 5.46%, planning only 23%, human settlements only 2.69%, technical service only 34.54%, water only 39%, and public safety only 0.29% of their capital budgets in the first 2 quarters of the financial year? Is the project management unit fulfilling its mandate to oversee the capital projects? Is the underspending of our capital budget due to poor management or due to the lack of funds? Risk factors. What measures will be taken to reduce our water losses, standing at 49% in the first 2 quarters? What debt collection measures will be taken so that current accounts of consumers are paid on time, seeing that the Metro has debtors book of over 11 billion rand and 84% of this debtors is irrecoverable, meaning that it will be a result in an actual loss of 9.3 billion rand. The debtors report. What measures will be taken to collect the outstanding debt under 1 year old? What measures will be implemented to stop growing debtors balance from standing at over 12 million rand at the end of December 2024? Will the installation of prepaid water meters be prioritized, seeing that the outstanding debt of water stands at 4.3 billion rand? What are the reasons for the slow recovery of the outstanding government debt, standing at 2.2 billion rand. Lastly, Honourable Speaker, will these questions by the Freedom Front Plus be answered? And if so, when will we receive these answers? Thank you, Speaker.
Councillor Kruger.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Executive Mayor, Councillors present, City Manager and the entire EMT, members of the public and media present. I've prepared a nice introduction, but I think in the interest of time, we must shoot straight. Honourable Speaker, in terms of the issue that was just raised in terms of our CAPEX budget, I think it is a direct link on how grants are being spent. I want to applaud the Executive Mayor because for his responsive manner in dealing with things. On Tuesday, we have a meeting that's solely going to focus, where every department are just going to report on grant spending and for the underspending of those grants to zoom in and for accountability. We would humbly also want to implore, as well as on the city manager, if it is found that indeed the mistakes can be attributed to the fact that our HODs are not playing the role that they should play, then indeed we must also look at the performance agreements that were signed. But that is upon investigation, because we want to get to the root cause, because as the ANC-led government, it can't be correct that forever we must take the blame when things are in place but certain people do not comply. Honourable Speaker, let me take this opportunity afforded to me to present the Midterm Budget Performance Assessment Report for 2024-2025 financial year, period which ended on the 31st of December to 2024 for Mangaung Metro as well as Centlek. The city's operational revenue, excluding transfers, has marginally exceeded the target. The expenditure, however, is way above the target for the semester, which has resulted in a budget deficit at the end of the midterm. Doesn't assist us doing good in revenue collection, but then we default in terms of managing our expenditure, which is the core function from a financial perspective. The total revenue excludes capital transfers and contributions, and it is expenditure by type. The actual year-to-date revenue for the period is 5.5 billion, which is higher than the year-to-date target of 5.3 billion, and the expenditure for the period is 5.6 billion, which is higher than the year-to-date target of 4.8 billion, respectively. In terms of MFMA, Chapter 4, it is therefore required of the city to revise and adjust the operational revenue and expenditure and ensure an alignment between projections to secure a funded budget at the end of the year. The entity, Centlek, has achieved 88% of the midterm target in the amount of 1.8 billion versus the 2.1 billion, an expenditure of 121% of the midterm target, which is 1.9 billion being the target and 2.4 billion being the actual. Thus, a deficit of 669 million versus a surplus of 116 million. This performance necessitates an adjustment budget to align the revenue with expenditure, reducing deficit towards a surplus as per the adopted budget. In the assessment of the performance indicators of the city, the second quarter report has identified 130 out of 139 projects for implementation, and the city's actual performance is sitting at 60%, which indicate a decrease of 1% from 61% of the first quarter. The capital year-to-date spending for the month is 3.5 million, which constitute 45.65%, compared to the year-to-date budget target of 669 million. On an annual basis, we have thus spent only 305 million, constituting a 22.82% of the year-to-date expenditure versus the approved budget of 1.3 billion. Based on this capital expenditure report, taking into account projects rolled over from 2023-2024, it is imperative that the budget be revised and adjusted to take into consideration the conditional grants that were not approved in this case. In as far as the entity is concerned, the performance below summarizes the performance. In conclusion, in the assessment of the indicators for Q2, it was determined that out of the 35 key performance indicators established, 25 were applicable for this quarter. And of these 21 KPIs were successfully achieved, resulting in a notable 84% achievement rate, resulting in improved performance as compared to the previous quarter. Conversely, 4 KPIs were not met, accounting for a 16% non-achievement rate. The remaining 10 KPIs were not applicable for reporting in Q2. The organizational performance for the second quarter stands at an improved 84%. Having assessed the results, as I've summarized, the recommendations are stipulated in the agenda, and I therefore propose the adoption of the recommendations for the 4 respective items. Thank you, Speaker.
Councillor, 2 more councillors to speak. Here is Councillor Mongale and Councillor Dipale.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Dr. Matai. My contribution from the African Alliance of Social Democrats is that we should all be obsessed with trying to find a way, how do we minimize the variance that we have picked up on page 7 of the report on page 76. That should have been our preoccupation, to say, how do we deal with this excessive overtime that the Auditor General have also complained about. To cite an example, in the Office of City Manager, even though I don't understand, how does the Office of City Manager, Office of the Executive Mayor, and Office of Corporate Service Manager, HOD, how do they get overtime? What is it for? Because people who are working there are either senior managers or specialists, and when you go to the Office of Executive Mayor, those are contractual people whom their contract is properly stipulated to say you are working on a fixed term contract, but your working conditions are flexible. It means even if you can exceed the time, this meeting can go longer, you are not going to be paid extra. They can't claim overtime. I don't know where does this overtime comes from, but we need to find a way of stop blaming one another, try to find a meeting where we can say, how do we reduce it? What is the best approach? Is it the filling of position, or is it the cutting of certain costs that are happening? For example, if the overtime is 87 million, and out of that 87 million, you find that that was the budget for 87 million, but the money that was spent is 94 million. It means something is not right. It's either we have a shortage of staff or we have a corruption with regard to overtime. And that corruption is eating on the coffers of the municipality, is keeping on the coffers of the public. And we are failing our people if we can't put a stop to it as councillors, because that is our primary objective, to protect the interest of the public. You check it there, it says we have overspent 58.89. It means the overtime has exceeded with 59%, which is unacceptable. Then we go to the next page, which is the one that makes my blood boil. This one makes me lose control. Actually, if I was the mayor, I was going to fire the city manager based on this. You can't have a budget like this where contracted services are budgeted 620 million. You are saying, I've appointed senior executive, I've said they're experts, but I still have 620 million that I'm waiting to give to contracted services. People are going to help me as an HOD and city manager to perform my job. Now the issue is, did we get the right people when we advertise for positions? If we can support them with 620 million, and over and above that, the budget was 620 million, but they end up adjusting the budget to 635 million. Extra with 15 million already when there is a crisis. I think we need a meeting where we can sit down, where nobody's going to blame one another, but we can say, how do we reduce this crisis that we have here of contracted services? It's unacceptable.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. In closing, I need to reflect on this, that on the debt that the municipalities owed, it is now showing that business has overtaken the provincial government. It means the provincial government have set a wrong precedent for not paying the municipality. Even business have now overtaken them. Business is owing municipality almost 2 billion.
Thank you, Councillor. Next time when I give Councillor Verviers more time to speak, you must not complain. Can I have the last speaker, Councillor Dipale? You are the last.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Unfortunately, Councillor De Brain is not here. I remember one of the members of parliament stood up with black and white suits. Abu house rules or what? So he's not the only one who will get these things, whatever, and he thought it was a perfect wedding. He thought he was in a perfect wedding. No, thank you very much, Chairman. Let us indicate the importance of month-to-month municipal budget, specifically for the Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality. These budgets are crucial for ensuring transparency, accountability, and effective service delivery. As we review the financial statements, we have identified a few irregularities and questionable trends that require attention. Before we proceed with our questions, we would like to commend Settlek of their impressive spending, particularly in December, where they spent 43% of their budget. Unfortunately, other departments have been reluctant to spend, and we need to understand why. The Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, have raised several questions which we will address today. We appreciate the diligence and in holding us accountable for our financial management. Let's accentuate the importance of prudent financial management in the Mangaung municipality. As we deliberate on the municipality budget, it is crucial that we prioritize fiscal responsibility and ensure that our expenditure does not exceed our revenue. We would have engaged all the three documents one by one, but we find it not important, as we can make a genetic statement about our financial as a municipality. The Mangaung municipality, like any other local government, has a responsibility to manage its finances effectively. This means that we must strike a balance between providing essential services to our communities and ensuring that our expenditure is sustainable. Unfortunately, the municipality's financial performance has been a concern in the recent years. The Auditor General reports have highlighted instances of overspending, irregular expenditure, and poor financial management. These findings are a clear indication that we need to do better. As we move forward, it is essential that we adopt a more prudent approach to financial management. We must prioritize our spending, focusing on essential services such as water, sanitation, electricity, and waste management. We must also ensure that our expenditure is aligned with our revenue, avoiding a situation where our expenditure exceed our income. Our consequence of overspending are dire. It can lead to a situation where the municipality is unable to meet its financial obligation, compromising our ability to deliver essential services to our communities. It can also lead to a decline in investor confidence, making it more challenging for us to attract investment and create jobs. In contrast, a surplus budget offers numerous benefits. It provides a buffer against unexpected expenses, allowing us to respond to emergencies and unforeseen events. It also enables us to invest in critical infrastructure, promoting economic growth and development. To achieve a surplus budget, we must be willing to make tough decisions. We must prioritize our spending, reduce waste. What's about the complain about now I understand why. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We must
as you conclude, Councillor Tlhakung, King Councillor Mongala ema tswela ka ntle le wena ho botsa.
We must also explore innovative ways to generate revenue, such as public-private partnership and investment in renewable energy. In conclusion, Chairman, can we? The importance of prudent financial management in the Mangaung municipality cannot be overstated. That's your problem. We must ensure that our expenditure does not exceed our revenue, prioritizing fiscal responsibility and sustainability. By doing so, we can create a brighter future for our communities, promoting economic growth, development, and prosperity. The Economic Freedom Funders will always provide direction where it is needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors. This brings us to the end of the debate on this matter. May I now allow the executive mayor to reply?
Speaker, I'm not much into the issues. I just want to deal with just, I think, 3 of the issues. The issue of the water losses, I think, was dealt with quite extensively, so I don't think I really have to come to it, except to say, not the fact that we are saying communities in informal settlement are using water. The instruction we gave is that the Department of Human Settlement must find a way of regularizing that water so that people must pay. I think that's the answer I could perhaps add to what I said. Now there is also the issue of how are we going to recover the 4 billion rent that accounts to what is being owed to the municipality on the water side of it. We have also instructed the city manager and the CFO of Centre to work to bring our bill as one. So that when we charge, you get a bill that speaks to all the services that you must pay. Because the bill around water is difficult to realize, given that you can't switch off water. But when we switch off electricity, when you come running, we're able to give you 1 billion. That bill will be talking to all services that you must pay: water, electricity, and other amenities that you must pay. So we're trying to build that bill. It will help to answer the question that how can we avoid a situation where people would not pay, because now water is for free. If you look at it, generally, not only to the informal settlement, even in the suburbans where we live, we still have such problems. So we need to find a way that people must pay that bill collectively. I don't want to be answerable to why the office of the mayor is overspending or overtime. I wouldn't want to answer it from my side, but the long and short is that the unfortunate thing is that all offices, the speaker, the deputy mayor, and others, derive their existence from the office of the mayor. And I've indicated to the officials that now they are budgeting does not accommodate all activities. As a result, it does give that impression that I've got overtime in my office. No, we don't. We literally don't have such. People are not doing overtime. Some people that find themselves to be doing overtime are those that are working with different offices outside my office. However, the answer to that was that such services must go to different disciplines so that they must not impair on giving the impression that about whom, you see. So we're delegating them, those that are police and security services, they are going to the Department of Safety. Whoever is in that office or whoever operates through that office and is not in that office must go to the discipline. The speaker must have his own people so that they must develop their own budget. It must reflect there. If they are going to have overtime, it must be there, not in my office. I must indicate, at face value we don't, but in reality, because of accountability, it will always reflect on my office. Thank you.
Then that different is. How can I move the magazine? Go search that my go search councillor. Councillors, this brings us to the end of the debates on this item. Councillor Kruger has already moved that we should note and adopt the 4 items combined as one. Can I now see hands of those in favor of that proposal? That the motivation of Mangaung only can support that. Okay. Those against? Abstentions? Oh, 9. Thank you. Those in favor, 53. Those against, 5. Abstentions is 9. The items will be carried as they are. Councillors, it is 3 p.m. May we please be back by 3:30. By 3:30, please be back. Okay.
Hey! Hey, Speaker. Yanu.